Hello, this is Colton Anderson, and this is my video presentation on sexual orientation from watching the Stonewall documentary. So while watching the documentary, there was a lot of things that jumped out. For my recap of the video, there was a member of the NYPD who at that time went in to raid the bar, and they described that incident as a war along with the battle against homosexuality as well through the police force. Um, and then at that same time, there was people that were in the bar who said at that night the roles were reversed, where the cops were then the ones who were running from the homosexual people that were in the bar that were um, creating the riot. So there was also another line that really stuck out to me. There was a person who was in the bar that night that said gay bars were to gay people. He compared it to what churches are for black people down in the South. And if you know anything about the South, religion is a very big integral piece for everything they do. So that kind of stuck out to me. Um, and they also mentioned how psychiatrists were taught that homosexuality was actually a mental illness, and people were actually sentenced to mental institutions, and they did things like lobotomies. Sometimes they would even castrate the individuals, and they had a pill that gave the drowning sensation. So in essence, they were waterboarding them to try to cure the homosexuality and other sexual diseases. There was a advocate named Richard Inman who was in the video, and his goal was to legalize homosexuality between consenting adults. And um, there was also another lady that spoke of when she was young, early on, she was learning about having feelings toward other people. She wasn't attracted to men, and then she kissed a woman for the first time, and she immediately knew what those feelings were supposed to be like, and she knew in that instance that she was a lesbian. And then she also stated right before her interview was concluded that she knew that for the rest of her life she would go through hell for certain, and that feeling of that first the search of that feeling from those kisses. So the way that the video or documentary related to the reading and then what my reaction was, um, kind of right in line with what we heard in our reading. Historically, gay men and lesbians have always struggled to gain societal, legal, cultural, and religious acceptance. Um, After the incidents at Stonewall, there was many liberation groups that were formed, and adopted the word gay to signify members in a positive light and rise above the fixed dichotomies for sexual orientation. The goal of these groups was became gaining recognition for gays and lesbians as a minority group, seeking civil rights, similar to what women and ethnic racial minorities were seeking at that time as well. My reaction to um, watching the video was it was very, very shocking to see these therapeutic techniques that they did to try and like fix the homosexual people. I was disgusted that people actually got away with that, but realized that it's still a very prevalent issue today that people feel negatively towards members of the LGBTQ plus community. And I felt horrible how a lot of people in the documentary stated that they felt like they had to live in secrecy, not only just from their own family members and things like that, but in society in general. And they had an immense fear of just police presence as well. So this is my comparative chart for the Christian worldview and social work values towards the LGBTQ plus community. Um, there are a lot of similarities between the two. Most of it is goes hand in hand. They're both looking to fix restricted rights of people that are oppressed. They're both against discrimination. They're looking for easier healthcare access for individuals, helping with mental health. And where it gets kind of foggy is um, the legality of things like same-sex marriage or just couples being together in general, homosexual couples. And in this next slide, we'll touch on that a little bit. So how can we change those differences and what are the similarities between the two? We'll start with the biggest difference, which is kind of dependent upon which denomination you're looking at and even the individual's beliefs on what their view is towards same-sex marriage and partners. The more old school view can kind of be related back to the Bible in that Jesus holds up the creation story in Genesis, reminding us that God created each of us male and female, and that the sexual union is accepted by God as only for husband and wife. And then I found another study where there's a review of 70 selected studies from 25 different countries, and there was a commonality of four themes on issues regarding the delivery of services to LGBTQ plus adults. And the first was that there's a close connection between religious affiliation and negative attitude towards LGBTQ people. The second was a heightening effect of religiosity. Third was educators with religious attitudes informing curriculum, design, and delivery, and then there were students in their class showing resistance towards classes that had LGBTQ plus inclusivity. And then fourth, there's examples of practice concerns raised by professionals and non-LGBTQ plus people as well. So like I said, there are a lot of similarities between the two, and a lot of it goes hand in hand between the Christian worldview and social work values that can be found in our code of ethics. The first off is compassion and love. There's a big stress towards kindness towards others expressed through caring for those in need. Justice and advocacy. In both, they share a commitment towards justice and fairness and social equity for the oppressed and vulnerable. Another one is dignity and respect. Both uphold the value of dignity and value of every individual. Service to others is a very critical component in both. Integrity is one of the core values in social work, and Christians also value honesty, transparency, and ethical conduct as well. And then empathy, both value the importance of empathy and supporting clients or just simply other human beings. So after doing the comparison chart and thinking about how this might affect my future practice, I was raised Catholic. However, I do have the openness to know that others have their right to their own beliefs, and it's not my place to shun them or make or put them down or treat them any differently strictly because of their sexual orientation or anything like that. And I realize, so when I look at my personal practice, I have to realize that there might be some implicit bias on my part just simply because I was raised that way. It may conflict, something I believe in might conflict with one of my clients or other coworkers even, but it's going to be very critical for me to remain impartial and have a client first approach in everything I do just to make sure that I'm able to serve them in the best way possible for future care. And here are my references. Thank you.